Hi, welcome to today's webinar, where today we'll be talking about how you can build an impactful talent strategy for your life science startup. And before we get started, it probably makes sense to introduce the two people in front of you. My name is Nathan Sharp. I am a senior consultant here at CM Life Science.
And I'm Eleanor Doolin, an associate director at CM Life Science. In short, CM Life Science are a talent solutions business that serves the life science sector. I specialise in the broad diagnostics and oncology space, and Nathan more specifically within the point of care.
Just to go through a bit of a running order for today's webinar. Step 1, we are going to be strategizing. Step 2, we're going to be talking about all about your talent attraction. And then step 3, we're going to talk about how you can supercharge your hiring process.
We'll also be running a Q&A at the end of the webinar. So please get your questions to us in the chat nice and early, and we'll do our best to get through as many as possible.
Step 1, who do you need? I think before you can even start thinking about adding to your team, you need to look internally. You need to get a full understanding of your talent and your business needs and where you can add some value to it.
I think it's really depends on where you are as a startup. A startup could be 6 scientists in a lab in a university wanting some business acumen, or you could already be starting to commercialize and sell and need some M&A or finance assistance as well. So really reflecting on where you are at that point.
I think as well, we've probably seen the best startup leaders in today's life science market are really open to new ideas and diversifying their teams.
Yeah, you need to be really open with different skill sets. And I think really importantly, acknowledging what you don't know and what you don't have. You'll have great talent and great knowledge, but fundamentally there will be things that you are missing. So being kind of quite reflective and understanding that as well.
And that probably brings us on to how maybe today's talent market looks as well. I mean, we're in a great position. We speak with candidates in the life science market every day, and we've seen such a transition to being such a candidate-driven market since COVID as well.
Yeah, they're the ones calling the shots. And stability is now more important than ever. It always is, but startups, incorrectly or correctly, can be seen as slightly risky. And I think we definitely, from experience, people are less willing or more cautious in joining a startup for what it means and their family as well, really.
Yeah, I think as well, life science now, COVID has probably helped this, but it's such a desirable market to work in as well. People who may have not have a scientific background or have worked in this market before are looking at it as really appealing and want to come get involved and want to join startups within our space.
Yeah, like I just know one of my really good friends has been a teacher in a high school, biology teacher, but for about 5 years. And she's recently left to go into industry and work within that because she found the work being done in COVID, but just generally as well, particularly oncology, really inspiring. So it's really exciting that it's a really good problem to have, that people want to work in it, for sure.
I think as well, you probably need to look at where you stand against your competition when you start going through your hiring process. What are you doing? What aren't you doing? And how can you change this as well?
Yeah, I think startups, technology is there. It's exciting, it's inspiring, it's hopefully going to revolutionize the market and save lives. And that's there. The mission is also really attractive for life science space, about bettering those patient lives. I think if you're looking for people with non-industry experience, such as kind of a HR or a finance professional, this can be really super powerful, but it won't differentiate you between so many other startups. Everybody is doing that. Yeah,
I think as well, people really kind of buy into why you're doing something as well, and not just kind of what you're doing. They really buy into that mission, that culture, and why you're trying to do that as well. And I think that probably comes down to, like you say, when candidates are looking at maybe joining a life science startup, either from within life science already or externally, salary, pension, and even just bonuses isn't going to be the only thing that can attract them to a role.
No, it's not. And it's obviously important. But it's the culture and kind of setting expectations from the start to make sure you're getting the right personalities and the right talent. I mean, we'll go into branding and employer branding in a little bit later, but yeah.
Communicating your long-term plan.
Yeah.
I think this is super important as well. When you are working with an external search partner, obviously we're going to be biased and say we'd love for you to work with us, but keep them in the loop with your roadmap. This will then help them when they are screening candidates for you, and it'll really help them engage that candidate and get them bought into your culture, your vision, and what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, and I think the best way to look at your hiring plans, and I think it's something, again, we do well, but I see done really well internally in a lot of things, is to look at it holistically. It isn't stop, start. I think a hurdle and something that can go wrong in a startup potentially is, looking at your immediate need. We need this scientist now. And then by the time you've completed the search, it's too late. So if you're looking holistically and making sure that you know where you're going to be or potentially want to be, it might change, that's fine. But making sure that it's never ended and you'll never find yourself. You're always one step ahead of it, really.
100%. And if you come across great talent as well, really kind of moving on them at that time as well, rather than saying, we could need this person in 6 months. They may not be available in 6 months.
Yeah, that goes back to candidate led. So you want to move when you see it, for sure.
Moving on to step 2, and again, talent attraction. Before we talk about job adverts and posting them, I think it's important to talk about employer brand. And you mentioned it before, Ellie. What impression are you giving to external candidates that are either passively looking or actively looking? And what information are you putting in front of them about your business?
Mm-hmm. I think, yeah, exactly. And it's all about making the distinction between branding and employer branding.
Yeah, I mean, put simply, your brand is to generate customers, whereas your employer's brand, or your employer brand, should I say, is to hire and retain that talent as well.
Yeah, I mean, within the wider market and sector and startups in general, really, they have amazing and exciting technology. But that only forms part of the employer brand, and sometimes technology and the excitement around that with high potential isn't enough to convince someone to join. If you're getting people to commit to kind of joining and putting their future in their startup, they'll often need more than just knowing what the technology to do. They'll need to understand what life is like for them at your company, what the culture is like, what the future would look like for them, their families, and kind of their career growth as well. I think long gone are the days where you just say, we're a startup and we've got a great culture. Every day is different. It sounds a little bit cliche now. Everyone says it. You really need to kind of back it up and have some context behind what you're saying, because people will see through it otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think giving an insight into that brand, that culture, like you say, you can't just say it and hope that people buy into it. And something that we do here at CM Life Science and the wider kind of Charlotte Morris business as well is we partner with our clients to create something called a client hub. We've both used it with some of our kind of partners, and this is an extension of your website or a client's website to help them really sing about their employers and their employer branding. So this could be interviews with the CEO, the senior leadership team, or even just kind of a lab technician that's just joined the business about how their kind of interview process was and their onboarding process. Yeah.
I think the main thing is kind of in the attraction side of it is to give backstage information, behind the scenes, what is happening, maybe things that you don't want your investors or customers to know really about what that day-to-day is going to be like, and just giving them a little bit more insight. Yeah,
100%. We've both used it, like I said before, and I think, would you agree, it's definitely improved the candidate process as well?
Yeah, for sure.
This comes on to people trusting people as well. I think it's important to say as well at this point, you don't need a big kind of professional production team to do this. You just need to get started in raising that awareness. And you can do this just on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's a great platform to kind of sing about your business through your employees as well. So empower them to post about your amazing startup culture, the meetings you're having. Maybe you've had kind of a team building day, get them posting about this from their personal pages as well.
Yeah, I think even from a personal perspective, wanting to work where we work, you want people to get bought into it. And it's really important to get people talking about it at the moment. People need a purpose to go to work. They want to be excited, and you want to be telling everyone why you're so great. I think the main point on that, though, is to be consistent. Definitely seen it when you see all employees from an organization post at 3:35 on a Tuesday after they get their 3:30 email reminding them. So it's transparent, and it's not enough to get people to do it once and expect results and to get in it. You be consistent. it takes time. It really does to build that. But once you have it and once people see it, it naturally just continues and is really, really effective. I think just to make sure you're empowering people to do it on their personal pages, not just company pages, you'll get way more reach, and you'll get people from other industries as well, and kind of their day-to-day connections. And at the end of the day, people are what make your company great. So get them talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. We mentioned them before, and job adverts versus job descriptions, and which do you do? And let's remember, as we said before, it is such a candidate-driven market right now, and you have a responsibility to convince them to come work for you.
Yeah.
They potentially, if they're active in the market, they will be looking at loads of different job descriptions and job adverts. Job adverts. But if yours is a job description and really personable and selling the culture and selling the business rather than just listing off loads of kind of requirements, that's going to really engage them even further.
I think the key distinction in the way I personally look at it is a job advert sells a lifestyle and a future. And I think it might not be the best analogy, but if you look at a car advert, right, and you see a great person driving along the coast of Italy somewhere, and you're like, that looks cool, I want that car, I'm going to go buy that car. I did it when I bought my car, and I haven't got a clue what engine it is, it might not be the best way to buy a car, but it's about selling a lifestyle and kind of looking to the future of it and getting them bought into what they could have and what they can do in your company as well.
Yeah. This leads us on to step 3 and hiring. So you've got your strategy, you've now attracted some amazing people, and now we are hiring them. I think your process should mirror your culture as well. I think this is really important.
You've got to be dynamic, right? You've got to be adaptable. You've got to be ahead of the game. If you're telling a potential employee and a candidate that this is a cross-functional role and you can wear many hats, and they've got to be adaptable and flexible and adapt to things going wrong or quickly or whatever it may be, then you've got to mirror that. A long hiring process does not.
Yep.
2 weeks between each interview stage does not show that you're that dynamic, and it can disengage people. I'm not saying rush it and do one stage interview. That's detrimental. You can be efficient and detailed at the same time. It's making sure as well, one point of it is that the candidate is happy with the pace of the interview and making them aware of the timeframes that you're going to be working to. This is going to be quick pace. Are you happy with that? And if not, maybe they're not the right person for that company as well.
Absolutely. Like you mentioned it there, but I think that transparency and what we were just about to go on to say, and honesty is key as well. I think, for example, if you are hiring a lab technician and it is going to be long hours and you are going to be in the lab, you need to be honest about that throughout the process and not shy away from that. Really communicate that with them, because if you don't, you potentially may spend time, money bringing on the wrong person, and then it doesn't work out, and then you have to potentially replace them or look for new members of staff as well. Yeah,
and I think, like you say, time and money, but I think most importantly really is reputation. It's a market and an industry where everybody knows everybody, and a really welcoming one, and where people share experiences, and word will spread quickly if it's a bad process, and that's not what you want, because that could mess up that higher number 1, but it could mess up higher number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 as well. And then you're just kind of fighting a reputation that you don't have, and want to get it right straight away. Yeah,
and if you flip it on its head and look at it from the candidate's perspective, I've seen within the point of care space, Theranos and Elizabeth Holmes, I've seen a couple of people who have left there. They had to come over quite significant hurdles to then find new employment after that, just because of the reputation of that business following that as well.
Yeah, got to make it a right match straight away.
Moving on to Aftercare. So you've been transparent and honest throughout the process. The Aftercare bit should come naturally. People won't be shocked when they join your business about your culture or the people that work there, or if it's long hours in a lab, they won't be shocked at this part.
Yeah, but it's always important and to be safe to have those aftercare things in place and to have a structure. I mean, we do it, and we do it really well. We do candidate and client check-ins and provide that feedback, and to make sure that you're constantly improving. You can do things right and you can do things wrong, but as long as you're kind of being proactive with it, I think, not to be biased, but doing it externally can have its benefits. It can be more effective. Not saying it has to be Nathan and I, but sometimes people can feel more comfortable talking to a third party rather than their direct kind of line manager, and then that third party can be really kind of objective in terms of what they're doing and make sure that they're not being biased and be really honest.
Yeah, I think that's 100% the case as well. And to be honest, I think we've seen as well, sometimes those conversations with us can really help both the client and the candidate as well, because like you say, it can be quite a transparent conversation, and we can almost kind of facilitate that as well. I feel like we've flown through that. Hopefully we've covered quite a few points, and you've had some takeaways right now. Just to go over a couple of points, obviously we've strategized, you've gone through that. Your step 2 was attracting the talent, and then step 3, you've supercharged your hiring process, as we just mentioned, and the aftercare as well. We've had a couple of questions from LinkedIn, and I think this would be a good point as well. If you do have any questions, make sure you pop them in there now, and we'll try get them answered for you. But it's come from an unknown user, but they've said, I'm thinking about making the first commercial hire for my business in the US. What would you recommend? Any tips?
Yeah, I mean, without being vague, without knowing too much about the business and the size and kind of what you're wanting to do, I think the first commercial hire is key to the success, because it probably fundamentally grows the commercial team as well. And I think what you want to do is make sure it's the right type of person. If you're hiring someone commercially from an X market leader where they might have a team of 15 to delegate to, you want to make sure that they are ready for a startup. Yeah. Lots of people say they want to work in a startup, but are they going to be right to knock on customers' doors and be that hunter? And it's making sure that your interview process comes down to that. So it's just making sure that they really understand the expectations of the role and the company and what you want from them as well. But yeah, a hunter is what you want in a commercial first hire, I'd say.
Yeah. And then secondly, we've had somebody say, I'm looking to hire somebody to support our CSO. Where would you start?
Again, I think goes back to what we said at the start, is acknowledging what you don't know and what you don't have. Your CSO might have founded the technology and come up with that, and that's great, but they might lack some hands-on experience or what they want. So really what gaps that person has, if any. There will be some, I'm sure, but identifying the gaps and then matching those to the person, but also being adaptable to the type of person you bring. They might not have 10 out of 10 lists, but they might have 8 out of 10, and then you can get someone else to get the other 10 and extras as well. Yeah. So being kind of adaptable to it.
Great. I think that's all for the questions, unless anybody has any last minute ones, but hopefully you've taken away some key points from this and can implement them in your kind of hiring strategy moving forward with your life science startup. Firstly, thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate it, taking the time out of your days to go through this. If you have any extra questions as well that we haven't managed to answer, or you're typing as we speak, then please feel free to message either myself or Eleanor afterwards, and we'll make sure we try and get those answered for you personally as well. There will be a PDF featuring all of today's major takeaways created soon, so please look out for the link to reserve your copy. And that, I think, will be getting put in the chat right now as well. From myself and Eleanor, I think that's everything. So thank you very much.
Thank you.